Hello, math class. I'm on page 216, section 11.3, using tax form 1040EZ. This form is also called the short form, and it's actually the form that I used from the time I was 16 to the time I was 27 until I got married, and then we had more complicated tax issues, and we used the regular 1040. But this EZ form is familiar. It's the same then as it is now, and probably will be the first tax form you'll start filling out when you start working. So, page 216 and 217. 217 goes line by line telling you what information is on those lines. Up at the top, you'll have your name, address, phone number, your social security number, and so forth, down to number 1. You put your total wages, salaries, and tips, and guess where you find that piece of information? On the W-2. So you're going to use the information that we learned in section 1 and 2, and now you're actually putting it on a tax form. So number 1, you collect all your W-2s. If you had more than one job, you may have more than one W-2. And then you're going to add all of those together and put that amount beside the line item 1. Then line number 2 is your interest income. Do you remember what form we learned about earlier in chapter 11 that reports your earned interest? That's right. It's the 1099. And looking on the 1099 in that specific box that we already learned about, that's where they're pulling that information to put in the number 2 slot. Number 3, if you had any unemployment compensation, unemployment benefits, and then you're going to add all of those up. And basically, that's right, the AGA, the adjusted gross income. Add all of those up. Then we're going to go with the standard deduction and the personal exemption. He did not mark yes. His parents are not claiming him, so he gets the single deduction and the personal exemption at $6,400. And over on page 217, it states those how they came up with the $6,400, the two different the deduction and the exemption together. Okay? Then, do you remember how you get your taxable income? Your AGI minus your deductions and exemptions gives you, on line 6, the taxable income. So now we have taxable income. And on line 7, we're going to use the information on our W-2s. If you have more than one, you have to add all of them up to enter the amount of tax that was withheld. So your employer withholds a certain amount of tax. You've already paid that much tax, so you're going to record that amount on number 7. Number 8, if you have any income tax credits, earned income tax credits, then you're going to add those two numbers together, and then you're going to go to the tax table. You've done that in the lesson before. Go to the tax table with that amount of money, how much, that's your taxable income, how much tax do you owe on that much money, and record that information. So you have how much they already took out of you, how much you paid, and how much you owe. Then remember how you did a subtraction problem, and it was either you had a refund that they owe you money back, or that you didn't pay enough and you had to owe money back. Remember that section? So you do the subtraction, and then lines 11 and 12, depending on which number is bigger and which one's smaller, how you do your subtraction, you're going to have a refund for a certain amount of money, or you're going to owe a certain amount of money. And because the total payments was more than what was owed, Chad is going to get a refund of $150.31. If any of that confused you, read 217 over again. It specifically states on each line which all the details. Then we're going to start asking the questions on page 218. This is the last lesson that has short answers that has to be so specific. If you know you have the right answer and it's a formatting issue, leave it. I will grade it manually and let you know if it's still wrong or if it was just a formatting issue. You forgot the $sign, or you had a space in between, or something like that. Do it twice. If you have the right numbers, but it still says it's wrong, just let it go. I'll grade it manually, okay? So, we're going to go to the practice exercises 1 through 15. 1 through 6, I've already talked about. You're going to go back to 116 and look at the EZ and 217 with all the explanations and just answer those first 6 questions on Chad's 1040 EZ form. Then, for questions 7 through 15, they have another scenario. Irma Santiago held 2 jobs during this past year. Copies of her W-2 and her 1099 forms are shown. She is single and has not claimed another person's tax return. So she's going to have the same deduction and exemption as Chad. She has 2 jobs. She worked at Sanders Corporation in the temporary services. So when you get the gross information, when you get the taxable information, if you're looking at those blue sheets to get the information, add both of those up, okay? Then the green slip is a 1099, and that's from the bank with her interest earned, okay? Again, if the lines are confusing to you on page 218, turn back to 217. Each line states what it is and where you go to find it. It's important to remember what a W-2 is, a 1099, your AGI, and how you figure out your taxable income by your AGI minus deductions and exemptions is your taxable income. And that's the figure that you go look on the tax table to get the amount owed. The only confusing thing is I'm thinking that you might be having issues with is knowing if it's a refund or if you owe the money. Think about it. You paid this amount of tax. That's the amount when you add the blue W-2s up. Then you go get the tax table number. That's what you actually owe. Which one's bigger? If this one's bigger, you're going to have a refund. If this one's bigger, then you're going to have to owe more taxes. If that's still difficult and you need another explanation, I'm available for video chats. We can email. Let me know what's confusing and we'll work it out together. This is the last lesson for the week of ending April 3rd. We'll get all of the answers fixed up through the first 3 sections, and then we'll start section 4 on Monday. Probably get through 4 and 5 before the Easter break. And and then we'll go from there. Have a great day, guys.